My name's Will Thoms. I'm a member, artist member here at Gallery Route 1. And this is our member show. It's the 39th year since the founding of the gallery that we've had a show, including all the artists. There's 17 of us in this show. And I invite you to look around. And many of the artists are here. And some of them are wearing name tags. Steve is not, but he's one of the artists. This Steve is wearing his, so I invite you to talk to the artists and if you have any questions or comments for them. And now I'm going to introduce you to Shelley, who's our executive director.
All right, thank you. I'd like to invite all of our artist members to please come over here for a moment. Step on over here. All right, keep coming. All right. So I would like everyone to get to know our artist members, and we have Robin Dintiman, and her work is hanging right here. We have Charles Anselmo, his piece is over here. We have Ellen Vogel, her work is in this room in here. We have Xander Weaver-Scull. He's got a piece in this room as well. We have Stephen Hurwitz. His work is hanging on this entry wall here. We have Stephen Pring. His work is right here. We have Morvitz. Her work is directly in this room here. We have Vickisa. She has some wonderful work in here, focusing on Andrew Romanoff. We have, and Rosebud, of course. We have Bernie Schimbke. He's got some work right over here. And one of our newest members, Pat Augsburger, has some pieces in this room. And of course, Will Thoms right here, and his work's right around the corner this way. And I invite all of you to talk to the artists and find out more about the work they're doing and ask some questions. All right, thank you all for coming, and keep showing up. Appreciate it.
Hi, I'm Will Thoms. I'm a member here at Gallery Route 1 in beautiful Point Reyes Station in California. And I'm going to lead you on a tour, a very short tour through our 39th annual members exhibition. Gallery Route 1 is a artist members run organization. So let's get going. And Shelley will be helping me with this. First of all, we have artist member Stephen Hurwitz.
I'm showing these 4 pieces in this show. And my story behind those is that I actually do some very minimal stripe pieces. These are all made out of cut plywood. And when I'm working with my colors, I use these little color strips to play around with colors, see how they go together. And these are just left over when I'm working on the colors, deciding what I'm going to do for the larger pieces. I liked them. I said, hey, maybe I can put something together with these. And this is all plywood. I like the way the plywood absorbs the paint, the acrylic paint. It gives it I don't know if you can see it, but it gives it a nice, soft, dusty feeling to it. And I like how that's affected. So there's my work in this show, and I hope you enjoy it.
And around the corner, we have a piece by Bruce Mitchell. This one is called Meander. And it's a composition of old growth curly redwood.
Hi, I'm Bruce Mitchell, member of Gallery Route 1, and this is one of my pieces in the member show, our annual member show. It's a very kind of abstract, very free-form piece of multiple pieces of curly redwood. It's salvaged from ancient trees here in California, and this is a kind of a new direction for me in terms of constructing pieces where I typically use a chainsaw and other tools to kind of carve from a single piece. So I'm really having fun exploring this new direction. And the title of this piece is called Meander, and which is kind of what it does along the curly redwood. It looks like water in suspension, so that watery feel to it, like a meandering creek, is kind of where the title came from. And I'm just really excited to have it here in the member show.
Here we have two paintings by Mary Mountcastle Eubank. Mary is one of the founding members of the gallery 39 years ago. And these are titled, the one on the right is titled Totem Pale Fire. One on the left is titled Totem with X. Both of these pieces are mixed media and acrylic on canvas. And Mary says, I see my work as a dialogue between nature and culture, layering of paint and the inclusion of other materials and objects best expresses for me the nature of this complexity. And here we have work by Charles Anselmo.
This work is my only black and white portfolio. I am really a color photographer. I am much more comfortable in the color world and its richness. But in going to this site, which is the National Cemetery in Havana, Cuba, the site never really introduced me to the idea of doing color. It always spoke black and white. I've been working on this portfolio for about 20 years. I keep going back. I've traveled to Cuba about 74 times now, and I usually have a chance to get back to the cemetery to see what I can do to add to this very long-term portfolio. This has to do with the intersection of the individual and the state at the point of death in Cuban society. It is an eminently Catholic place in many ways, although you'll see artifacts in the cemetery that show offerings that had to do with Afro-Cuban faith, Santeria. You see them in various ways. In particular, the image of the bird. This bird actually has been sacrificed in a Santeria ritual as an offering in one of the mausoleum crypts. The dominant feature that you see here in this series is what happens in the state of passing away and the state with Cuba. People are actually in the ground only for 2 years, then their coffins are burned, corpses are brought up, they're exhumed, and ultimately the bones are stored in ossuary boxes. It's because of the space crisis, because there are more than 2 million crypts, 2 million interments in this cemetery of more than 200 acres.
Next we have 3 paintings by Stephen Pring. The one on the right is titled The One with the Eyes. And in a brief statement, he says, the natural world observing human activity. The one in the middle is called 3x4. The one on the left is called Twisted Cable. They're all acrylic pointillism on cradle board. And in a brief statement, Steve says, Roy DeForest was a California painter, called art one of the last strongholds of magic. Now next we have another piece by Bruce Mitchell. It's called Valet Parking. And it's a wall panel composition from rare old growth curly redwood. Next we have work by Austin Buckingham. Austin is the organizer and lead on this exhibition. This one is an untitled triptych, and it is a monotype prints on paper mounted on birch panels. And Austin says, I wanted to express the anticipation and delight that comes from emergence into spring from the dullness of winter slumber. In yards, neighborhoods, and along the roadside, spring is bursting forth, fills me with hope, joy, and gratitude that I have survived. I'm alive and I'm here. Now we're moving into the next room. This artist member is Igor Sazevich. And there's 3 paintings, oil paintings on canvas. On the right, it's called Starting Out. The one on the left of that is called Recognition. And on the far left, Pandemic. As I said, these are oil on canvas. Igor says, I'm constantly fascinated by the play of oil paints, shifting under a slashing stroke, changing shape and mixing with an adjacent color. I use paint scrapers, fingers, rollers, always reaching for light in the texture of the paints. Then something taps me on the shoulder, saying, enough, that's it. Here we have work by Ellen Vogel. They're titled from the right, Look Deeper. The next one is called What's Black and White and Red All Over? And the last one on the left is untitled.
Hi, I'm Ellen Vogel. I'm one of the newest members of Gallery Route 1. Privileged to be here. Really excited to see this show of all my fellow gallery members. And I'm going to read a little statement I wrote, because I was too nervous to talk, about my pieces. So, at times, I engage with the art process to have a nonverbal way to relate to what's spinning around in my being. It opens up a space where the miraculous, the disturbing, the confusing, complicated, and beautiful can coincide. I get a momentary satisfaction from working on a piece. Now that that active part is over, for me, the pieces stand on their own. And then I begin to wonder if and how the pieces speak to others. If you have any experience with them, I would really love to hear about it. I'd love you to title them. Just tell me what you think. It's so interesting to me to hear what comes up when someone's with the work. It's incredible when it matches what I felt, and equally interesting when it's something entirely different that people see. The words swimming around my head were polarization, push-pull, media hypnosis, breathe out, commonality, and blood as basic to humans.
Next we go to Vaquisa's work. And we have here an array of images combining an homage to Andrew Romanoff, who was one of the founding members of the gallery, a Maria Muldaur album cover that was designed and executed by Vaquisa, and a remembrance of Rosebud. Rosebud is a beloved dog here at Gallery Route 1 for all that know her.
Hi, I'm Vickisa. I'm a member of Gallery Route 1 and have been for a really long time. And this is my work. These paintings are about Rosebud, my famous dog that I made a book about, and she is world-renowned, and she just died recently. And I made a bunch of paintings. She always snuck into my work, but this is the last painting of Rosebud with all the people I know that aren't here anymore. So there's a key to that if people want to know who they are. It goes on and on. The next thing that is another person that died very recently at the age of 98, I believe, Andrew Romanoff. And this is something I just know. I'm descended from royalty. And Andrew was a prince, or would have been the prince. And he was a really close friend, and I really loved Andrew. And so I used to go over when he was older and do shrink art with him. And I loved drawing Andrew. So these are all about Andrew. And this is Rosebud waiting for Andrew to drop a treat. He was the only one that was allowed to put a treat in his hand, and Rosebud was allowed to pull it off his hand. So those pieces were all done when Andrew and I were doing shrink art together, and when he was quite a bit older. And since he's not here anymore, like Rosebud, he's included in this. The last painting of Rosebud I did because it got me to be finished with grieving about Rosebud on such a steady level that it was impossible. And then one of the things I did, during the pandemic was Maria Muldaur's album cover for her CD and album. It's called Let's Get Happy Together. And that was a really fun project. It was a lot of work. Like Maria was practically holding my hand through half of it. But she really knew how she wanted it to be, and I did my own little magic artwork on it, and that is what we got. This, and that. Oops. And this is Rosebud after she died. In 2021, she was born in 2007. So that's what I made right after she died and I buried her. I made that painting, honestly. I couldn't believe it myself, and then I put it in her obituary that I sent to everybody.
This work is by Xander Weaver-Scull. It is entitled Humpback Whale of Many Colors.
Hello, my name is Xander Weaver-Scull. I am an artist member here at Gallery Route 1, and this is my piece in our member show, Humpback Whale of Many Colors. It is part of a series I've worked on about endangered and threatened species that have recovered, and this piece was made using watercolor and a hand-cut and drawn stencil. And one of the reasons I've really enjoyed using stencils for work about endangered and recovered species is that the nature of the pieces almost fitting together like puzzle pieces. I've always thought kind of balance and echo how the natural world works, that if you start removing puzzle pieces and imagery from a whale or from the ecosystem, eventually the visual imagery breaks down and is no longer visually distinguishable as a whale in this case. And the same holds true for our environment. As we start removing species that rely on each other, the collective begins to struggle and no longer looks like a healthy ecosystem.
Next, we have work by Z. Morvitz. And these are titled, working from the right. The first one is Bowl. The middle piece is called Traces of an Ancient Landscape. The one on the left is called Beehive. And all of these are ink and watercolor over graphite frottage on paper, which is a fancy word for rubbings. And I'll read a little bit what Z has to say. The frottage process creates a sheet of paper covered with random marks that I can draw into with a black gel pen. I spend a long time finding the form that I hope to elicit from these marks. As I draw, new graphic forms open up. The final drawing is never predictable, and I don't want it to be. Now we move over to the oil paintings of Pat Augsburger. Pat has made these oil on linen. The one on the right is called Lay with George. On the left, Stranger in a Cafe, Karen, Kenya. And Pat says, my concentration on figurative painting allows me the opportunity to explore the synergy between subjects and their environment, with hopes of relaying a story that can be realistic and or imaginative. Now we move to another piece by Bruce Mitchell. This is a freestanding sculpture, and it's made from a bay laurel burl. If you squint a little and look to the right, you can see an owl about to take wing. This piece is called Wingspan. These three paintings are by Will Thoms. All three are untitled. They're made with stained newspaper, stained with latex paint, and then on panel. These paintings are from a series started in January of this year, all using 10 unit by 8 unit grid and latex stained newspaper as a base. My interest is in abstraction, materiality, the play of color, and the often overlooked beauty residing in the ordinary. Now, moving back into the main gallery, we have a piece by Robin Dintiman. It's called In the Bardo, Great Oak Fallen. And it is a photogravure on chiffon silk. And Robin says, Great Fallen Oak is a memorial installation to my deceased husband. A large white oak was uprooted by high winds. My husband was being treated for cancer. I thought if I could save the tree, I might save him as well. And this piece is about transience. Next, we have three works by Bernie Schimbke. On the right is called Epiphany. The next one is Controlled Burn. And on the left is called Fiery Portal. And referring to that piece, Bernie says, approaching the unknown with a sense of wonder and openness, passing through the portal will give a feeling of relief and exhilaration. And these are all done in watercolor and collage on paper. This painting, this large oil painting, is by Nicole Irene Anderson, and it's entitled Leadership, Esteem, Ability, Discipline. It's oil on paper. And Nicole says, I travel to places that elicit emotional stimuli with my camera in hand. Dwellings, land inflicted with environmental damage or human alteration, historical locations, or the seemingly mundane make my way into my paintings. When translating the photographs into paint and pencil, I intend to express a collective uneasiness of the times. And finally, we have the work of Jenny-Lynn Hall. These first two paintings, the one on the right is called Third Turning, oil on canvas. All of these are oil on canvas. Next to that is called Graduation.
Hi, I'm Jenny-Lynn Hall, and these are two paintings from a recent series called Graduation. These actually came about through some energetic work I was doing with an acupuncturist that that was really helping me with kind of a personal transformation. And so they're very loosely painted. They're done just with attention to what I was energetically drawn to. And so this one was first. This one is actually called Graduation, and it the painting is a little heavier. This one's painted in just really thin layers. So I'm trying to figure out also how the color relationships can work, either really worked on or just minimally. These here are also by me. It's these are called Imagination. They're sort of about water, but again, they're just very loose color studies based on just improvisational painting.
And that's it. Thank you for tuning in.